The sound of a gun clicking in the middle of the night should probably send you diving under the bed. I just rolled my eyes. It was 2:14 a.m. I remember because my phone lit up when I checked the time, habit from when the kids were newborns and sleep was a myth. I was alone in bed. Mark, my husband, was supposedly in Chicago for a tech conference. Which is hilarious, because he still asks me how to connect the printer. But back to the click. It wasn't loud. Just sharp, like metal on metal. In the garage, I thought. Which made no sense, because the garage should have been empty, just my beat-up Honda and a cluttered workbench Mark used once in 2017 to hang a spice rack. I got out of bed. I slipped on my slippers, yanked my robe closed, and padded downstairs in that half-asleep, half-alert state where everything feels distant but important. The house was quiet. The kind of quiet that usually means your kid's up to something, or your husband is. I unlocked the inside garage door. Snapped on the light. Nothing. No masked intruder. No raccoon rave. Just the usual chaos, bikes, an old treadmill we now use as a laundry rack, and that damn workbench. Except the third drawer was open. Now, this might seem trivial. But in our house, drawers don't stay open. Mark is pathologically neat. Like, alphabetizes the condiments neat. You sneeze and he's already wiped down the surface. So the drawer being ajar? That was off. I stood there staring at it like it was going to explain itself. When it didn't, I stepped closer and slid it fully open. Screwdrivers. Zip ties. A flashlight. A pack of gum. But the thing that caught my eye was the tiny indent in the dust where something rectangular had clearly been, and wasn't now. I closed the drawer, quietly. Slowly. Like I was afraid it would yell at me. Back upstairs, I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wall. Okay. So maybe the garage noise was nothing. Maybe a shelf shifted or a mouse had dreams of being a locksmith. Or maybe, just maybe, my husband wasn't actually in Chicago. I'm a wife. Technically. We'd been married 14 years. Owned a house in a safe, beige suburb. Had 2 kids who think trauma is when the Wi-Fi cuts out during Roblox. Life was stable. Predictable. And that night, for the first time in years, I realized how easily predictable becomes suspicious. Mark had called me at 6:13 p.m., said he landed safely. I heard airport noise in the background. He made a joke about TSA and hummus. I believed him. Now? I was replaying every word. Every pause. Every strange little tell I'd ignored because trust was supposed to be the default setting in marriage, right? He'd been acting. I don't know. Not cold, just slightly off. Less eye contact, more overtime. The kind of changes you file away as midlife crisis starter pack until they start adding up. And now this damn third drawer with its phantom rectangle and that click in the dark. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, letting the silence crawl all over me. At 6:45 a.m., I got up, made the kids waffles, packed their lunches, smiled like nothing was wrong. Because nothing was wrong. Just a drawer. Just a sound. Just the beginning. By the time Mark got home 3 days later, I'd already gone full Cold War. I don't mean I staged a dramatic confrontation in a trench coat with a cigarette holder, I mean I had data. Printed call logs, screenshots, a notebook with tabs. I even borrowed Emma's baby monitor and planted it in the living room. Turns out being a stay-at-home mom trains you for espionage. When Mark walked in, suitcase in hand, he looked exactly like a man who had just spent 4 days in Chicago attending seminars about workflow automation and eating room service chicken wraps. Except, I already knew he hadn't. How? Because of the towel. See, Mark always takes the blue towel after a trip. He says the others are too scratchy. But when I checked the bathroom after he left, the blue towel was still hanging. Untouched. Like it was waiting for a man who never packed it. It was a small thing. But it made me look harder. And then came the receipts. I found one from a gas station in Scranton dated the same day he was supposedly flying to Chicago. Bought Gatorade and jerky. Chicago doesn't sell gas station jerky? Interesting. So I did what any modern woman with too much curiosity and not enough self-preservation would do. I checked his laptop. I am not proud of this. But when your husband lies about towels and snacks, you start breaking your own rules. Mark is a tech-illiterate dinosaur who still says the Google. His laptop password? Melissa 98. His ex-girlfriend. High school sweetheart. Inside, I found nothing. Just work stuff and a folder of PDFs titled Tax Prep 2022. But the browser history, that was more interesting. The browser history showed 3 recent visits to a property rental site. One listing stood out, a short-term rental apartment downtown. Booked for 30 days. Renter's name, Michael R. Jones. That's not Mark's name. But the profile photo was very much his face. Cropped too tight, beard trimmed neater than I'd seen in years. I drove to the address that afternoon. I told the kids I was going to pick up dry cleaning. Which technically wasn't a lie. I did grab Caleb's karate uniform on the way back. The building was one of those renovated old warehouse jobs with overpriced lofts and industrial vibes. I buzzed the unit. No answer. Then I tried the old trick, buzz all the other apartments at once and walk in with whoever opens the door. Worked like a charm. I made it to the 3rd floor, Unit 3C. The door was locked, of course. I peeked through the side window. It was unusual, almost empty. There was furniture, a couch, a minimalist table, 1 lamp. It looked staged, like a showroom. Not lived in. No shoes by the door, no mail, no clutter. No signs of a human being. Except for one thing. A backpack on the counter. It was navy blue. Mark's. I recognized the patch on the side, a tiny frayed corner where Emma had once tried to glue a glitter heart. I stepped back from the window, heart racing. This wasn't just cheating. This was something else. Why rent a second apartment, furnish it like a magazine spread, and leave it mostly untouched? And more importantly, why use it under a different name? That night, I asked Mark about Chicago. Kept my voice light. Like we were in one of those marriage counseling exercises where you pretend you still care about your partner's day. He told me it was fine. That the hotel was bland. That the keynote speaker was some guy from Seattle who loved flowcharts too much. I nodded. Smiled. Made a note of the fact that he said the hotel had a view of Lake Michigan, when the conference location he'd sent me didn't. Then I asked, "Did you eat at that Italian place you love? The one near Wacker Drive?" He blinked. Said, "No, it was too far from the hotel." Which was funny. Because that restaurant was 3 blocks from where he claimed he was staying. Mark had never been a good liar. I just hadn't been looking for the cracks. I waited until he fell asleep before I took the backpack out of the garage. He must have stashed it back in the house while I was at work. Inside, a burner phone, 2 flash drives, and a sealed envelope with no name. I didn't open the envelope. Maybe part of me still wanted this to be fixable. Maybe part of me was scared of how deep the rabbit hole went. Instead, I powered on the burner phone. No passcode. 23 messages. Most were junk. But one, just one, stood out. From a number labeled Sparrow. It read. Drop reshed. New location. Details unchanged. Don't bring anyone. S. I stared at it for a long time. Then I put the phone back in the backpack, zipped it up, and tucked it behind the water heater. Whatever this was, it wasn't just a fling. It was something bigger. Something planned. And I wasn't about to be the clueless wife in the background of some FBI case file. I was going to find out what the hell my husband was hiding. Following your husband across state lines isn't something they cover in wedding vows. In sickness, in health, and in light surveillance. But that's where I found myself. It started with a calendar alert on Mark's phone. I saw it by accident, or maybe fate just wanted to slap me in the face with it. It said meeting, Halsey 3 p.m. No other details. Not work-related. Not recurring. Just a 3-hour block of mystery and the same name from one of the burner phone messages. Halsey. I did a quick search. There was a town called Halsey 2 hours from us. Small. Forgettable. Mostly cornfields and a warehouse district that used to be steel factories before everyone stopped caring about steel. So I followed him. I told the kids I was visiting Aunt Carol. They groaned, assumed I'd be bored and back by dinner. He left the house at 11:47 a.m. sharp. Wearing jeans, a black jacket, and sunglasses. Real cloak and dagger chic. I stayed 6 cars behind him, changing lanes like I was in some low-budget spy thriller. He didn't notice. He exited onto Route 82 and took a back road toward Halsey. I followed through 2 towns, a toll booth, and one roadside diner that looked like it might offer you food or stab wounds, depending on the hour. At 2:58 p.m., he pulled into the lot of a warehouse near a chain-link fence. The kind of place where deals go down and bodies get found. I parked across the street, behind a stack of discarded pallets. Waited. Mark got out, carrying a duffel bag. A van pulled in 5 minutes later. 2 men stepped out. One was tall, built like a linebacker. The other? Skinny, twitchy, sunglasses too big for his face. They talked. No handshakes. Just tight body language, like this wasn't their first shady rodeo. I tried to get closer. Crossed the street, ducked behind an abandoned forklift. Then I sneezed. God help me, I sneezed. A real one, too. This was a full-blown, allergy season, sinus-clearing monster that echoed across the lot like a gunshot. Mark's head whipped around. So did linebacker guy. I ducked, heart pounding. My legs decided it was a great time to stop functioning. I crawled backward into the shadows and knocked over a rusted metal bucket. Just great. Next time I'd bring a neon sign that said, "Hello, yes, I am spying." I reached into my bag and the only thing I had was a metal spoon. Emma's, actually. She had taken it to school for yogurt and left it in my purse. Desperate and out of ideas, I chucked the spoon across the lot, hard. It clattered against a dumpster behind the next building. They all turned toward the sound. I bolted. I scrambled back to my car and pulled away like I had just robbed a bank. I didn't stop driving until I was back in my neighborhood, parked in front of a perfectly normal house that suddenly looked like a movie set. What the hell was Mark doing? Who were those men? And why the duffel bag? I didn't sleep that night. That was becoming a trend. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering how long it had all been fake. The inside jokes. The Sunday morning pancakes. The time he cried at Caleb's birth. Was any of it real? The next morning, I went looking for the duffel bag. Maybe he'd brought it back. I tore through the garage, the closet, under the bed. Nothing. But I did find something else. Behind a loose panel in the kitchen cabinet, one I only noticed because I dropped a cereal box, I found a black hard case. Inside, a handgun. Mark didn't own a gun. Said he hated them. Under the gun was a passport. Different name. Different birth date. Same face. Michael R. Jones. There it was again. That name from the apartment. I sat on the kitchen floor for a long time with the case in my lap. My kids were at school. The house was quiet. The dishwasher hummed behind me like background music for a bad dream. I could have called the police. I almost did. But then I thought, what would I even say? I decided I needed proof. Not just gut feelings and weird spoons. So I did something I hadn't done in years. I called my cousin Leah. Leah works in cybersecurity. She's paranoid, drinks black coffee like it's a religion, and once built a firewall around her cat Cam. She owed me for bailing her out when she accidentally hacked a police website in college. I didn't tell her everything. Just that I needed help accessing a flash drive that might have encrypted files. She didn't ask questions. That night, I snuck the flash drive from the backpack and met her in the back of a 24-hour diner. We plugged it into her laptop. What we found made my blood freeze. Blueprints. Locations. Codes. Lists of weapons. Shipping manifests. This wasn't cheating. This was arms dealing. And my husband was right in the middle of it. The thing about thinking you're in control is, you're usually not. Especially when you're sitting in a gray room with no windows, your phone confiscated, and a man in a wrinkled suit asking if you know what a front company is. No coffee and no lawyer. How did I get here? Let's rewind. After Leah decrypted the flash drive and confirmed that yes, I was apparently married to an illegal arms trafficker, or something close to it, I did what any rational person would do, I panicked. I copied the files onto my own drive. 2 copies, actually. One hidden in my sock drawer, one in a Ziploc bag under the freezer drawer behind the peas. I've watched enough crime shows to know how this works. People get disappeared for less. Then I called the police, just the local station. I told them I found suspicious documents in my home and wanted to report potential illegal activity. I left out the part about spying on my husband. I still had some dignity. They took my name. Said someone would follow up. The next day, they followed up. With a black van and 2 agents from some 3-letter agency I'd never heard of. They waited until I was leaving for work, then approached me like they were asking for directions. Badge flash. Calm voices. Just a few questions, ma'am. I ended up in the gray room. Apparently, Mark had already been on their radar. 4 months. They didn't say what exactly they were investigating, but from the look on agent, it was serious. They wanted to know if I had access to his accounts. If I'd traveled with him recently. If I'd seen any large cash withdrawals. If I knew what a shell corporation was. I answered honestly. Sarcasm slipped out a few times, I couldn't help it. No, I don't have access to his accounts. Apparently, I didn't even have access to his life. Eventually, they let me go, with a warning, don't tell him we talked. Which was laughable, really. Because when I got home, Mark was gone. Not just out for groceries, gone. Gone. Closet, half empty. His passport, work laptop, shaving kit, all gone. I checked the apartment, 3C downtown. Still paid for, but untouched. Like no one had been there in weeks. The kids noticed by day 3. Emma asked when Daddy was coming home. I told her he was away for work. Caleb didn't say anything. Just nodded, but his eyes didn't leave my face. My boss, already lukewarm on working moms with opinions, restructured my position. I was offered a polite exit. Friends stopped texting. Or worse, texted in that fake concerned tone that says we're already gossiping about you. The news hadn't broken publicly. But the neighborhood knew something was up. There were cars parked at weird hours. One woman I didn't recognize asked me at the grocery store if I was the arms dealer's wife. Part of me still wanted this all to be a mistake. A terrible, tangled misunderstanding. But I knew better. Then, one night, I got a call. No caller ID. Just silence for a few seconds, then a voice. Are you safe? I froze. Who is this? But I knew. Don't trust them, the voice said. It goes higher than you think. I'm sorry. Mark. His voice, tight with panic. Or maybe just the weight of consequences finally catching up. Later that week, I went to the mailbox. There was an envelope, with no return address. Inside, a USB drive and a photo. The photo was of Mark. In a different country, standing next to a woman I'd never seen before. She was holding his hand. On the back of the photo, someone had written a name. Sparrow. I plugged in the USB at Leah's place. Inside were bank transfers. Offshore accounts. Photos of shipping containers. Dates, locations, and names. But something didn't line up. One name appeared over and over, linked to shipments, payments, emails, mine. Used as the listed recipient for a shell corporation I'd never heard of. Fake signature. ID photo from my driver's license. They hadn't just kept me in the dark. They'd used me. My name, my identity, to cover tracks, launder money, and deflect suspicion. I wasn't just a betrayed wife, I was a shield. No wonder the agents had questions. They thought I was in on it. I left Leah's place in a fog. This wasn't a marriage. It was a cover story. There are two kinds of people in the world, the ones who wait for closure, and the ones who make their own. I'd waited long enough. I didn't go back to the house until I was sure no one was watching. Took side streets. The house smelled like memory. I kept the lights off. Slipped inside like I'd forgotten I was allowed to be there. The third drawer was still shut. Same place where this all started. That drawer. That click in the night. The tiny misalignment in an otherwise perfect picture. I opened it slowly. Like maybe it would finally give me an answer. It did. Taped to the underside of the drawer, flat, black, nearly invisible, was a second flash drive. I stared at it for a long time before taking it to the kitchen, plugging it into my old laptop like it might explode. No files. Just one video. I hit play. Mark's face appeared on screen. He looked tired. Jaw tight. Beard uneven. If you're watching this, it means I didn't make it out, he said. Or I ran. Which, probably looks the same from your side. I didn't blink. I didn't breathe. You were never supposed to be part of this. That's why I used your name. You were invisible to them. You gave me cover. I clenched my jaw. My entire body. It was wrong. I know that. But it kept you off their radar. If they thought you were a puppet, they wouldn't come after you. They'd assume you didn't know anything. He paused. I didn't want to lie. But it was the only way to keep you safe. Sparrow isn't what you think. She's my handler. The real operation, it's bigger than guns. It's data. Information. Leverage. Governments, private contractors, tech companies, foreign money. I was in too deep before I even knew what I was working on. And by the time I realized the scope, I couldn't get out. They don't let people leave. But you still can. Take the files. All of them. Go to Claire Brennan. She works at a private firm. She can protect you. And one more thing, check the second drawer. Not the third. You'll know what to do. The screen went black. I sat there, the sound of my own breath too loud in the room. Then I stood. Walked back to the workbench. Opened the second drawer. Inside was a plain manila folder and an old flip phone. No charger. Just one contact saved. Claire Brennan. Just a note scribbled on the folder. When you're ready to disappear, call this number. She'll make it happen. Burn everything else. I laid everything out on the floor. Every flash drive, every photo, every document. I built a map with red string and post-its like I was one corkboard away from losing my mind. And I saw it. Not just betrayal. Strategy. Mark had used me. Absolutely. He'd used me because I was quiet. A perfect blind spot. But I wasn't boring anymore. I took the folder, the phone, and the last flash drive and got in the car. 10 minutes later, I was outside the FBI office. Just said, I have information related to an active case. I want immunity and full protection for me and my children. Then I'll give you everything. The voice on the other end didn't ask who I was. Just said, we've been waiting for you.